Happy Monday, my Liberty kitty cats. And before we get into today's awesome conversation, if I do say so myself, I got to make sure that you know you could have already seen it. You could have already heard it. You could have seen it live as it happened. You could have even tossed some questions, some comments out there. You could have done all of this if only you had been a member of the Lions of Liberty Pride, if you were one of our many amazing supporters on Patreon who fully fund this show, who help us grow this program. You can find more about that over at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty, but we really have something for everybody. You can get ad spots on this program. You can produce an episode. You can get discounts on merchandise, monthly calls with the hosts of Lions of Liberty. We really go out of our way to make sure you get value for contributing to us and helping us grow this platform. Not to mention all sorts of bonus audio and video content. Like I said, we have live streams of many of my interviews. We also have bonus shows, bonus segments with guests, shows like Conspiracy Corner, Degenerate Gamblers, Brian McWilliams on his Good Morning Fuckhead, his nearly daily show. You really don't want to be missing all the great content behind the paywall. Check it out at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty.
We need to empower people with not just the philosophical tools, but the inspiration to break free from the system.
Welcome to the flagship Lions of Liberty podcast, your weekly dose of education, inspiration, and real-world application from the top minds in the liberty movement.
If you want liberty, we need to be better leaders, better husbands, better fathers, better friends, better businessmen. We need to be better people.
Here's your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Mark Clare.
Live long and live free.
I can say I am very pleased to have. This is actually a couple big milestones here. Not milestones. I'm just tossing that word around. First of all, we haven't done this format, Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor, where we just drink and we hang out and we have zero plans and zero idea of where it's going to go in quite a while. Specifically with my Lions of Liberty co-host here, with Odie, with Brian. But we also have, for the first time in this particular format, a special guest, Buck Johnson of Counterflow. So what a great time this is. It's fantastic.
I've been wanting to do this for a couple of years. So
would you say, Buck, you might be ready to make some kind of animal noise of some sort?
Yes. I'm ready to roar. Look at
God.
Brian. I like that background.
I did that only to
Yeah,
anger
right.
Brian.
This one works.
Yeah, that one works.
Yeah.
It looks like I'm a prostitute on the street, in front of
It
like
does.
Electric Love.
Yes. Thad will have you on anytime now.
Fine. That's the secret. God, if only I knew. I was in a hotel with him. I could have just sucked this thing
that's
right there
right.
for $5.
Yes.
Hotep could have watched. He doesn't like the gay shit.
You kind of watched something going on between them, if I remember.
I think
correctly.
you actually did watch sex work. Essentially,
They were leaning in a little close at some point.
one of them
Let me
had to
tell
be
you
getting
that.
paid at some point in there. So
Yeah, it got intense. It got
I
like
saw
it
Thad
got
the
like
next day, and he could barely walk.
Oh yeah, man. He was.
I don't know
Well,
what
he
it was.
doesn't even drink. He just smoked so much pot during that.
Yeah.
that
he
just
had to
fucking
consume so
brain
much
dead
Paloma
himself.
Verde CBD to recover, which of course you can use now. I can actually now announce again, Buck Lions, a bunch of our podcasts. We're all we've become somewhat. What's the term I'm looking for? What's it called?
Incestuous. with our
Incestuous.
sponsors.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I was trying to find another
Very-
term that
very
wasn't that, but fuck
incestuous,
it. Let's use that. We as well have a Paloma Verde as a sponsor. So whatever you do not use discount code Buck or whatever it is. Go over to Paloma Verde. No, I'm serious. You should probably use both discount codes. Use one shipment with discount code ROAR for Lions, 25% off your order over $75, free shipping, all that great stuff. And then maybe next week use discount code Buck if you still need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you can rotate back and forth.
Yeah, we have no problem with that.
There's something going on with one of our sponsors. I don't know. I guess we probably can't talk about that.
No,
I
mean,
think you should talk about it.
we
now.
could, especially since you just brought it up. So now it's weird if we
Yeah.
don't.
What's the drama?
But maybe we shouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Oh, I know which sponsor. Never mind. Yeah, I don't know
Is
if we
it-
should talk about that.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
So
Does that do
especially
with,
since he pays us all money, we should probably figure
Something
that out
something
before
you
we-
drink? Yeah, we can skip over that.
Well, I'm just gonna say he's sponsoring this show, so you'll know later if you're an astute listener, and you should go purchase coffee from him.
Or if you can
Or
hear,
not.
you'll know.
Anyway, Buck, this has been a dream of yours. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, because I like talking politics,
Mm-hmm.
libertarian politics, and I like drinking. And I like
Yeah.
you guys.
They
so-
go hand in hand.
Those
Yeah.
are two of my favorite things. Those are Brian's only two favorite things.
That is literally all I do. I don't even know how I got married. I don't know how I have a kid. I don't even know how I had
mind-boggling.
sex. Literally, I just don't stop talking or drinking at any point in time. And yet, somehow that sperm worked its way up into my wife's vagina. And
Did it though? Because that baby's way too adorable to have any of your DNA.
I don't know. I mean, I look. Every time I
Man,
drive around
coming
and I
around
see
a
the
lot
homeless,
last
like I look at the homeless on the street, and I'm like, maybe
see a
cleaned up
sparkle.
a little bit.
Are you sure
Odie, what about you?
Jason
Do you think your
Stapleton
child-
didn't sneak away with your wife at one of those
Oh, please,
dinner
Odie.
parties?
He's a classy individual. He has way too much wealth, power, and
Thaddeus
influence
Russell
to
is the
get with
father of
my-
Brian McWilliams' child.
Is it a
That's just a
ginger?
theory.
She is a gingy-looking little girl, though. That's
And
really
so is
weird.
and Hotep Jesus is as well somehow.
Mm.
Ginger. Yeah, he's straight ginger.
Not a ginger, a father of your child.
I smell a sitcom.
Potentially.
Is there one on the way that I don't know about?
My Three Dads, starring Brian McWilliams, Hotep Jesus, and Thaddeus Russell, raising Brian's actual daughter.
If Hotep Jesus got my wife pregnant, I would just yell at her. I said, I thought he was the Hotep, but you're the hoe. You're the hoe.
If anyone's good with Photoshop, or you can just do this while you're on the show, Brian, make that sitcom poster for us, please.
Yeah.
Do sitcoms have posters? Are there sitcoms anymore? And if somebody,
Yeah, they have billboards. I've seen billboards around LA with sitcom shit on them. It's usually, for your consideration, etc.
I see. What are you guys
Lights are
drinking?
terrible.
We should talk about that. Elephant in the room, always. I'm gonna start with Buck because I know he's been dreaming, quite literally dreaming of telling us what he's been
I
drinking.
knew it was
on
going to be
Libertarians
bourbon.
and
I
Living
knew
Room.
it.
Nice.
Tell.
Nice.
Is that a
That's
can? Oh, I thought
expensive.
that, for a second it was so close. The label was so close to the camera. It looked like a can of bourbon.
In Texas,
should
they
actually
just sell
exist.
bourbon by the can.
You just crack open a little
That's awesome.
12-ouncer of bourbon, straight
Well, it's
bourbon.
like that. It's like that moonshine you can buy. It came in like an oil canister or like a paint thinning canister. Remember that
Mhm.
stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was good stuff too. You can
Yes,
get
my first time to try this one. The liquor store in here in
It's
Lockhart.
the first time trying it, and the bottle's half empty.
Yeah,
No.
just
Yeah.
bought it this morning.
I started this morning. The liquor store here in Lockhart doesn't have Noble Oaks, which is my favorite bourbon. So
I've
this
never
one-
had it, but it sounds awesome based
It's
only
very
on the
good.
name and your recommendation.
yeah, and this was a Texas one. So not all Texas ones have been that impressive to me, but this one's good.
All right, Brian, what have you always wanted to ask Buck Johnson?
Buck, why haven't you not had me on your show? No, I haven't had you on my show either. Because
That's
We'll-
why.
we'll do that
The
then.
endless vicious
See?
yeah,
cycle.
let's do it. We'll make it happen. We'll make a magic pod,
Yeah,
baby.
we're booking stuff
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I don't know. Who's the most famous person you've seen passed out on a floor?
That is right.
Ooh.
I could answer this easily for myself.
Oh, yeah, I know Odie's answer.
But I think of people in a weird,
What's my answer?
I'm in a niche music scene. So, I mean, I can
Yeah.
think of plenty of rockabilly musicians, but most people would go, what the fuck is rockabilly?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, with your music, you're the
I
music
don't
world. I was
want-
like, maybe you've seen some people that were passed out.
I don't wanna know
they
them and
banged
just
their way
know
through
what
8
rockabilly is.
groupies and then.
Was it Johnny Rocket that you saw passed out?
Johnny Adams.
No. Does Johnny watch this?
I hope so.
I don't know. I don't
Nobody
know if
knows
Johnny watches
what
anything
Johnny
anymore.
does.
No, I
Yeah.
talked to him not that long ago. I mean, I don't know if he's watching live. I don't think he's in the Pride, but
Isn't Johnny probably in the middle of being married again? Every time I just text him, I'm like, am I interrupting a wedding ceremony?
look,
No?
we're all in the middle of being married. So who are we to-
He's
who are we to-
he's been
Yeah,
in
congrats,
this
Mark.
marriage for quite a while, I think.
I don't know. I don't keep track of the comes and goings of Johnny Rocket.
Who's Jack? That's a comment. Bruce McGee.
What's
What's
Jack?
Jack.
order?
Oh,
Wants
he's
to know
talking
what's
about
Jack
me.
drinking.
The
Are you Jack?
Good
Is that
Morning
your name?
Liberty guys call me Jack because
Oh,
I call
'cause
him
you
Nate.
fucked
Oh,
up.
right.
Nate.
Now that's
You
a
fucked
deep
up.
insider joke.
Whatever. I'm drinking.
No, Justin, these crossovers do not make your job easier because we're still
Can't even
producing the
see
same
the
amount of
can.
content.
Sweetwater Sweetwater IPA, which you guys don't enjoy IPA, so fuck you.
I
No.
do. That's what I drank
Good.
prior to this.
Mm.
I mean,
So you're saying it's a bitch
man-
beer that a man does to pregame to it's a day drinking, easy drinking lady
Yeah.
beer.
well,
And
it's,
then you get into the real man's bourbon later. But Odie's just sitting here still drinking the urine beer that other people use as appetizers or lunchtime.
it's
just
the
to get through the day.
optimism in my brain. It's called Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor.
Liquors.
And I
Gee.
thought, well, I can't have beer then. It doesn't say that. So
Yep.
Shit.
And yet,
When we
Odie-
started the first couple episodes, it was
Fuck, it's
only
goddamn
liquor,
right,
and then
I'm
it's kind of
embarrassed.
it's just alcohol
then-
now, really.
I'm not even going to talk about what I'm drinking. Actually, at some point I'm going to leave this room when I have to pee, which will be
Can I
not
guess what you're
before the
drinking?
show ends.
I bet I can guess it.
What I'm drinking?
Yeah.
I bet you
You're
can.
drinking wine.
I bet it's lamer than you think it is.
Is it Rumplemints over ice?
Drinking
that
a
sounds
wine
amazing.
cooler.
Rumplemints is not lame, by the way. Rumplemints fucks you up. As I can
Drinking
attest to.
Mike's
That's a
Hard
bad
Lemonade.
All right, I'm gonna explain myself here, but I actually have whiskey in the other room somewhere, so I think I will at some point go out and dip in because Buck has made me realize that I'm not even living up to the show that. Who invented the name of this format? Libertarians and Living Strength Liquor. I want to say me, but that could just be
I
my
did.
memory.
No, it was definitely 100% me because I got it from obviously
makes me
comedians
feel
and cars drinking coffee.
Oh, actually,
Ah.
I do kind of recall you comparing
Yeah.
it to that. Okay,
Makes sense.
I'll hand you this one, Mr. Fighting Freedom. Anyway, I'm drinking a hard kombucha, gentlemen.
Oh,
And if-
wow.
if
That's the
you-
goddamn lamest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's frickin' Michael Bolden territory. But Michael Bolden manned up and switched to bourbon, which is how I got so fucked up when I got together with him in Stapleton.
And maybe I'll pull a Bolden because I got. But I'll tell you how this happened. I just forgot the fact that I need to buy booze before the show. So I'm sitting down, I'm ready. I'm like, what am I missing? Oh, the alcohol. So I go in my fridge. I bought these for my wife. Why? Because she likes things that are gluten free and such, and she likes kombuchas. So that's why I bought them. She's not here, but the kombuchas still are, and they have 6% alcohol. There's worse beers.
Wow.
and after she leaves you, Mark is going to write a poem called "She's Left Me, but the kombuchas are still here." Can't wait to hear that epic poem.
The kombuchas.
The kombuchas.
Anyway, but at some point I think I'll sneak out and
Why does Cam Newton not have a kombucha line called Cam Newton's kombucha?
Probably because it's not called kombucha. That's probably the first one.
Kombucha.
Kombucha.
They can't, but hear what I'm pitching here. Cam Newton's kombucha. He's a weird guy.
What's
A lot of
Justin
his
talking
fans would
about?
drink that shit.
Johnny does a happy hour every other week and always makes fun of me for drink. Oh, he's talking about Johnny Perfita. I thought he was talking about Johnny
Yeah.
Adams. I was like, where is Johnny
I did
Adams' secret
too.
happy hour here?
Justin,
This'll just be
when
when
were
we-
you drinking this Mike's Hard Lemonade? Was it 1995 or?
Yeah, what, is this middle school in the early 90s at the prom?
This is driving me nuts. I'm changing my shirt.
All right, Brian's changing his shirt. What else? What else is going on, Buck? Buck, I will say, I'm curious. I want to poke your brain because this has been an internal conversation within the Lions of Liberty. It's something that you've already done, and it's a conversation we've only had with ourselves and also with the Pride, with some of our Mufasa level, our 25 a month patrons who get to do a monthly call with us. But we have talked about the idea of rebranding in some way, shape, or form. And that is something you have very recent experience with. Your show used to be called Death to Tyrants, and that seemed to you, understandably, to put you in a bit of a box. I think you even mentioned when I had you on, and I think I heard you say this to Thad, too, when you did an interview with him, that you actually had guests turn you down specifically because it was called Death to Tyrants.
Yeah.
So that kind of put you in a box in many ways.
What is happening with this shirt? God damn it. Wait, who turned you down?
Here I am setting up a brilliant question.
Wait. I'm not going to stop you. Who turned
And we gotta talk about
you
Brian's
down,
shirt.
though? Who turned
He
you
tried
down?
to have
'Cause
Dick Cheney on,
Okay.
and Dick
Who
is
Cheney's like,
against-
"Come
yeah,
on, you can't."
Exactly. Yeah, was it a tyrant? Like who's opposed to death to
No, it was
tyrants?
a
I mean, the fucking
pacifist.
It was a tyrant.
It was a pacifist. That's all.
I'm
Assad
guessing, yeah,
turned you
they
down. Oh.
disagree with the death part. But the thing
Okay.
is, everyone dies, and all tyrants will die eventually. So really, you're just stating the obvious.
It was someone that shares a producer with me. I don't like to
Ooh.
name names.
Whoa.
Though.
Interesting.
I don't even know you had a producer. So,
Yeah.
and
Pod
that's why
Media.
you should support the Lions of Liberty at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty so we can hire producers. Just kidding. We don't need them, but we do need money. A lot of it. So,
We need.
I would say
producers.
anybody listening to this show would argue that we definitely need a producer.
I mean, it wouldn't
I think
hurt.
that this is the first and foremost. If there was a trial,
First of
going
all,
on,
who
this is
could
Exhibit A.
produce you, Brian? Who the fuck could ever produce you? Think
That's
about
an
that
insult
for
to
a
my parents and the cloning tank they used.
minute. Compliment to your parents for making it this far.
Are you going to rebrand?
I think,
Well,
I
it's been a
think- I think
discussion.
we might.
John,
It's
you
been a
did
discussion.
a little bit. I mean, you
We're not,
changed the
we're not
name.
making a commitment. We're just
Yeah,
discussing.
yeah. I rebranded from Felony Friday, which, I mean, it's been great. I mean, I was in such a small box, which was good for the run, just talking exclusively about the criminal justice system. But with COVID happening, and so many other stories of, really tyranny, local tyranny with business owners, not being able to talk about that stuff. That was the main driver for the rebrand, to kind of get out of that box. But what we're talking about is, I guess we're just going to put it all out there. Why not? Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? That's what happens when I start chugging back the kombuchas, gentlemen.
Watch
Obviously,
out.
Flowing.
Lions of Liberty. It's a well-known brand. I mean, you see
Yeah,
those,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
See
grandmas
those
all over
polls
the country.
that
no,
people have on Twitter, what's your favorite podcast? You'll see Lions of Liberty pop up there, all that stuff.
it'll
It's
be
been
somewhere
great.
around 17 or 18, almost consistently.
No, you do see it all the time. That's the issue. You guys have been around since Tom Woods started. That's the
Since
hard part.
about a month before, if we're being technical.
Well, we're trying to think of whether or not, one way to pivot that would keep the brand intact but allow us a little bit more freedom with the shows would be to do a Lions of Liberty network and then have the show rebrand so the shows themselves would not, Lions of Liberty as a show would change to something different. Electric Liberty Land might change to something similar. I don't know if I really need to change the name of
Brian
my
yells
show.
at stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if I really need to change it that much. I think it's kind of fine. It ties in with pop culture, like Ladyland. I don't think I need to change it.
I think
Because the elephant in the room is the word liberty.
Liberty.
And
Right, yeah.
It's crazy to say it, but the word liberty,
To some people, it means Nazi.
yeah,
I mean, it's the shorthand for what we were going to say.
And then they see Brian.
Yeah,
I know.
And that doesn't help at all.
Hey, do you want to hear a great joke?
And they're like, no, we got two other guys too. They're white. And then it's over. And one of them kind of looks like Richard Spencer right now with the haircut. So it's like, I'm the
That's
other one
true.
holding this thing
every
down.
haircut I get looks more like Richard Spencer. I'm like, God, can we?
I thought we were talking between Buck and Odie. I don't know. They both got a little bit of Richard Spencer.
I was
right
talking
now.
about Odie specifically, but I suppose I could almost.
Buck's got a little close crop. He's got that.
I've got a little Spence.
That militant
dash
look.
of the Spence.
Yeah. Lions of Post Liberty. I see it already.
Well, that's literally like one of the things we're talking about. Like the
it's not
post-liberty
literally one of
movement.
the ones we're talking about. It's not
No, but post-libertarianism, it is definitely something we're thinking about as far as
I don't think adding post to our title changes
No.
the preconceptions.
The only way we do
Wait
that
a
is if
minute.
Post Cereal became a huge sponsor of the podcast, in which case, fine. We're
Oh
easily
yeah, we'll sell
out.
out. I think that's clear. I mean,
Yeah, Post Liberty. That's a good. If you guys are listening out there, big pharma, big government, big cereal. If you want
All the
Post,
bigs.
the business to subvert the post libertarian movement by being post Lions of Liberty, we will gladly take that on. No problem.
maybe instead of post libertarian, we should be post lions. We should be like another evolution of lions. Like lions are nice; they're nice to think about, nice to look at, but we need something more. So what comes after the regular
A
lion?
liger.
Okay, ligers of liberty.
Ligers.
Animal.
Make it Liars of Liberty.
Ligers of liberty. I do not hate at all. In fact, I'm about to go order a new logo tonight at the end of the show. Dan Smots, if you're listening, we need a new logo. It's Ligers of Liberty. Hopefully, you're watching live. You pay us money to do so.
I mean, we're
And
trying
we'll
to
use
think
that
though,
money to pay you to make us a new logo.
Yeah, and the question is, do we want to say, like I'll say, having a podcast network thing, so that we could keep it as the overarching thing, that might work. Otherwise, I don't know. We're tossing. What are some of the names you guys were tossing out, Mark? I can't remember.
The Mark Claire Show.
Well, that could be under the Lions of Liberty Network. That's fine.
He just wants to call it the whole network.
No,
the
the
Mark
whole
Claire
thing.
Show.
All of it. Even you're like, all right, welcome back to the Mark Claire Show. This is Brian McWilliams.
This is alternate host Brian McWilliams.
I don't want to put all the names out there, but if you have a name and idea,
some of this would probably be a business call. That
Feel
we do
free to hit
without-
us up
without
with
the
it.
entire world potentially listening.
Well, we're definitely going to do a new logo soon. That's something we're working on.
The reason I brought it up though is that I did want to get Buck's perspective on his own rebranding because I think it's been how long has it been, like 10
January
months?
1st.
Okay, so I was close.
Yeah, it
Really
was.
close.
The timing was perfect to do it. We discussed it in November, December, and I was like, well, we got a new year coming. Let's just do it right when January starts. So that was just kind of a clean break.
how's it been?
Good, helpful, seamless for the most part. You still get people. There was a while where you, and I still do a little bit, where someone will comment on something or other and go, I like the old name better, which is fine. It doesn't bother me.
Don't.
But now, thank you. But it is, I just sold out quickly of the Death to Tyrants shirts that I had left in stock. And so there was almost a cool, like, I felt cool being able to say, I've got Death to Tyrants. Because for a while I was like, all right, I can't say that name anymore. I got to separate it. And now everyone knows, so I can still bring it up, and it's not a big deal. And so I like being able to reference like the old days, if you will. Sounds
Part of
good.
the story.
I like now also you've got a great merchandising option. This is another reason why we need to change the name. Is now anytime you want to up your Patreon, get people interested in buying some merch and supporting the show, you go for a limited time only. You can get your Death to Tyrants t-shirts. I'm only printing up 50 of them. Get
Yep.
them now, whatever. And then people will jump on that shit.
It's
Yeah.
over now, but you could, in 5 years, you'd be like, I'm doing a limited edition 5-year anniversary of the death to Tyrants t-shirt.
Yeah.
For as little as $49.99, you can get a signed version. Signed by
Yep.
Buck.
And we'll take a 10% cut of that for making the idea.
Obviously, I thought that
There
was.
you
Yeah,
go.
that's the manager.
Again, this is all stuff that can be talked about in the business call that we're going to have immediately. We are doing that right after this, right? Buck's joining us. I invited him.
Yeah.
Hope it's okay.
Yeah. Justin's
And
in.
that's we're gonna make the rebranding decision in 2 hours. 2 hours from now. But like, have you noticed that? I mean, you don't need to get into necessarily the details of your specific numbers per se, but has it helped your show grow? Do you think just by having sort of a I don't know, a less, because even I before I knew who you were, you reached out and you said I do the show Death to Tyrants, and I didn't know who you were at that point, and I was like, yeah, I'm totally down, but I had a certain image of you just from that name. And I think that who you are and the host that showed up to that interview was different than what I expected.
Mhm.
Only going on nothing more than the image of the name. I'm picturing just an angry animal who just wants to yell and rant and scream about the state. And that's actually not even close to who you are. You're like a very thoughtful interviewer who really puts thought into questions and is very precise in how you go about things. So I think that the name doesn't really fit who you are, who you were as a show. So that's why I think it was a good idea to change the name. But I'm curious if you've noticed that rebranding just doing more for what you're able to do and what you're able to accomplish and the response that you get from the show.
It's definitely, it allows me to cast a wider net as far as guests go.
Mhm.
That's the main thing. And the bump in the audience, it's hard to say, well, it's because I changed the name, because Thad helped with that stuff too. And so when you go on a podcast like his or something, then you automatically get a bump anyway. So the bump thing I can't speak on really, because I combined it again with joining Thad's thing. But it just allowed me to cast a wider net. And it's interesting. I don't feel, especially like I've heard so many people like say what you just said, Mark. And so now when I reach out to someone that's kind of outside of our little circle, I don't feel weird like, this is a strange name or anything. I think this seems more doable to not a normie, because I don't have many of them on in general, but just someone who's not an ANCAP.
Yeah.
It's not an intimidating name, Counterflow, whereas Death to Tyrants just, there's anger in that name. You can't deny it. So
college professors that I've wanted on, even if they're affiliated with Mises in some form, they would see Death to Tyrants.
I think we're getting close to finding out one of the people that turned him down.
Another one just popped in my mind. We're
gonna figure it out. But that's the goal at the end of the show. It's just
I can think of two.
Either to figure it out, through mental gymnastics, or to get just Buck drunk enough that he just,
we need that list. It's like in Billy Madison, where Steve Buscemi's got the list of people to kill, and Buck's just got that.
We can start with a long list. We can just look up every Mises related scholar and then just check some. It's not Anthony Samaroff.
Name him off.
No, I actually, he's been.
What if it was? No,
like
brother, I won't do your show. Death to Tyrants is way too angry for me.
That's the worst Anthony Samaroff impression I've ever heard in my life.
That's a second.
That sounded like Paul. It was like Paul of the Beatles.
Hey, I'd really like to speak with you about this book I wrote.
That's also terrible. It doesn't sound anything like that. Yeah.
All right, well, then let's hear yours, pal. You got to put up or shut up.
Let me tell you how you want to talk if you're Anthony Samaroff. First off, you have to speak a little bit slowly, and you really have to lean into the Scottish accent. That's how you talk. That's how Anthony Samaroff talks.
You want to go get a steak?
More quietly though, but that's pretty good.
Well, I'm trying to make it. Yeah, he is softer.
I could overhead press him.
Totally, easily.
He's a small man.
I love Anthony, but I would take anyone in a fight. Angela versus Anthony Samaroff. I take in a fight.
Anthony understandably thinks I'm literally trying to avoid him, because every time he's going to be in LA, I'm literally have a flight the same day.
Are you
I'm like, you're not going to believe this, dude. I'm literally flying out of the country. This has happened like twice in the last month.
Are you gone? This episode is going to air after I speak at the.
I will be gone. Yes, it will have already occurred when this airs.
Okay, because Anthony's speaking there too on Saturday.
I mean, he did speak on Saturday, Brian.
He did speak.
Unless you're a patron, in which case this will happen on Saturday. See the time warp you get in this way? You just got to pay the $5 a month, be a patron, and then you don't got to think about when is this airing, when did this happen. You can see it all live. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Anthony
Like,
is
like the one person watching right now.
No, it's more than that. That's just don't believe that number. There's hundreds watching right now.
Well, hundreds will watch by the time it airs, but
No,
more than
Anthony,
100. Come on.
he's traveling. Like he doesn't live anywhere right now. All he's doing, he's traveling, speaking
That's
around the United States, which is I mean, it's kind of awesome. You
he's
know,
everybody's libertarian drunk uncle now that just comes and sleeps on your couch, tries to fondle your youngest daughter and then moves on to another city.
Can I ask you not to
Which
cook
is the
bacon
Scottish
in the
way.
morning?
I'm sorry I impregnated your daughter, but I have to go now to Austin. Someone's got a couch for me to sleep on, and I have to sell these books. That's
library
why
is open.
I couldn't afford Plan B without spending more money on the books.
I'm going on a jet ski with Stefan Kinsella this evening.
I would love to see Anthony ride Stefan Kinsella down the mountain. Wasn't he there with him when he was skiing?
Yes, some of those video clips were hilarious. Anthony went up and said he thought it was Kinsella because they all had their fucking masks and beanies and all this gear on, and it wasn't. And he's like, "Hey, you fucking little faggot!" some guys all, "What? Oh my god, I'm sorry."
Oh, I'm so terribly sorry. I thought you were my Austro-libertarian friend.
I don't
Moving
even
on.
know what accent that is.
I don't either. I
I
have no
heard
idea.
you talking about IP, and I came running up on my. Well, you wouldn't run on skis, but god, I can't do these accents.
Leave it to professionals, guys. Stick to what you're good at. And
Brian, have
leave
you
the
ever been
rest to
paid
me.
to do an accent?
What's that? Hold on, Mark,
Have
you're
you ever
cutting
been paid
out.
to do an accent? Am I cutting out, or you just don't want to answer the question?
He
No,
said, "Have you
it's
ever
like-
been paid to do an accent?"
No, it was like a weird delay where I saw his mouth move, and then I don't know, Buck saw it too. I saw Mark go, and then
He just
the
has one of
audio
those new
came later.
filters.
That's just
on
what
his
I do,
camera,
yeah.
where someone
Kung Fu
else's mouth
filter.
actually. It's his wife's
Yeah.
mouth that is moving, and
Have I been paid to do an
That's why I'm
accent?
drinking the kombucha. It's not even really me.
I don't know if I have. I don't think so. Well, I guess I have been when I worked at Sesame
Then
Place.
don't call yourself a professional. That was not. Big
I
Bird is not an
got
impression.
paid to do. Yeah, I did.
Yelling
pirate
at children is
impressions.
not an impression of Big Bird.
Yelling at children is one of the finest skills you can master. Think about this. Think about this, guys. If I can yell at children and get away with it, who can't I yell at? That's why my show's so popular.
Do you
That doesn't
do
even make
voiceover
sense.
work, Brian?
I need to. I've been meaning to make a demo forever, and I just haven't done it. So
should.
I'm hoping to record one at home now. So anytime,
Why don't you
any
just
day
do it
now.
now, and then you don't
I
need to record it. It's already being recorded.
I know.
We'll give you
seriously.
5 minutes. I gotta pee anyway.
Perfect. All right, Buck, read me off some lines, and we'll do it right here. You can produce it and be my agent.
Do you get paid though for stand-up comedy? Yes.
I have in the past, but not overall. No, I
paid in
stand up a couple
drinks,
years
maybe.
That
You
wasn't
work
a
in
joke,
some type
Buck.
of
You should try
entertainment.
stand up.
You work
What's
in
that?
some type of entertainment. Yes.
I work. So I do public relations for a living. I'm a writer on the side. I did
What's
stand up
the PR
comedy as
for?
everything, everything and anything. I mean, a lot of it's entertainment
Whoever will
industry.
pay.
A lot of it's very
Except
little
for
pay.
Lions of Liberty, he refuses to do any PR for Lions of Liberty.
My brother's not there. He's
And we're not interested.
senior
So it's
vice
okay.
president of PR for Fox Searchlight Films.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, he makes
Oh.
much more money and has much more influence than I do. I work for a
Same.
boutique agency.
He's got more wealth, power, and influence. You might
He
say.
does. Yes, yes. Matt Erickson would like my brother. He'd make more money.
Yeah, no shit. Well, it's one
And
of
he'd
those odd
hate Brian
things.
for being so poor.
Probably. Well, we were, it's like I'm a boutique agency, so it's one of those things where the ups and downs, and I'm getting real sick of the ups and downs, and we'll see how the next couple months go might dictate my career choices. But you get that nice, like the quality of life's very good in that I very, very much dictate my schedule, what I do. I'm left the fuck alone, which is very important to me. So working in the corporate environment never appealed
A
to
lot
me that
of
much.
lot of
but it is
dictating when
very
you're
stable.
left alone.
A lot of dictating. So, yeah, being in the corporate environment didn't really appeal to me, but the stability of the corporate environment now is appealing, especially after the pandemic, man, because it's just been a rough fucking year. Really rough. So, we'll see. Yeah. Well, killed the show. All right, thanks, everybody. Good.
I feel like we need to talk about something controversial. I wish there was.
Oh yeah, let's talk about every controversial.
I was
controversy in the
going to
Libertarian
say,
world.
I don't want the biggest controversial thing you just did, a show on, and it's like been beat to death. You know what I'm talking about, obviously.
COVID?
We already
Yes.
brought up.
Clint's music.
Let's
Yes.
keep beating it. I love Clint's music. You know, I have to. All right, I got to bring it up now because for a while, I was actually saying, I don't know, it's hard. I think that I really love your theme song, Buck. I really do. It's awesome.
Thanks.
I also could
I like
say,
it too. Buck,
I could
Buck,
actually argue
here
you're
he
not a
is. He's
libertarian.
the guy who's
Shut
rock
up.
and roll. Buck, Buck. Is that the one? Is that the old theme song?
That's the old one.
All right. It's been a while.
But Clint's original rap that he wrote that includes all the references to all these other
awesome.
libertarian podcasts, it's awesome. I love it. It might be my favorite. But I could call you my favorite, other favorite.
So you're saying mine's
Anyway.
not strictly a libertarian show?
Well, I'm saying that as a compliment. I'm
Yeah, I
saying
know.
that as
Perfect. Yes,
that's
yeah.
not a box you necessarily need to be put in, and that's part of why we discussed the rebranding thing because does of liberty put us in a box? And it does. And it's not even a question; it's a statement. Of course, it does. It does in a sense, whether it does
Buck,
to us or
let
not.
me ask you this: do you consider yourself a libertarian, or do you put any label on yourself?
It depends what room I'm in and who I'm talking to. With you guys, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it depends who I'm talking to. Some of the times that label's embarrassing.
What if you're talking to Thaddeus Russell?
Yeah, he knows me well.
I know.
I'd say paleo libertarian to kind of qualify it in an easier to digest way for me. But
All right. So why don't you?
I don't want someone to think of Reason Magazine, Nick Sarwark, Cato, and me.
That's fair. What
Yeah,
can you
there was-
define what you mean by paleo libertarian? Because I think that is a term that has been so misjudged in recent times over the last 20 years or so that for many people that don't really understand the history, even well-meaning people who might not be of the other libertarian you might be talking about, they think of it as, oh yeah, that's when Murray Rothbard liked David Duke, and it's just about libertarians embracing racism, right? That's what it is, right? But that's obviously to me,
That
anyway,
even
not
brought
what
that
you
up to me. That's that
Yeah.
paleo strategy. That's when
He actually literally brought up David Duke.
Yes, I'm like-
That's a great point. That's why I don't like to describe myself in any ways close to the paleo movement because people automatically revert to that thinking.
Yeah, I would just say right-wing libertarian, which I think more people in the LP, well, not the LP so much, but maybe the LPMC should admit to being, because a lot of them are, not all of them, but yeah,
They're going to get called Nazis anyway. So, you know.
yeah, I mean,
The good ones will anyway.
anyone who associates, if I say yes, I'm a paleo libertarian, and they think you must like David Duke, I mean, that's not someone who I would care to associate with probably anyway. So, David Duke, it's funny that people still use that name. He's so irrelevant, and he always has been. But he's kind of this.
And these people couldn't name one David Duke position, nor could I. But that's
I was
the point.
going to say, nor could I.
That's
No.
the point, though.
Yeah.
Well,
And
they look at him as like the MLK for white supremacists, which is why he's so prominent. And they can't. The reason why David Duke's so pertinent to people is that they can't think of another prominent white supremacist
because
there's nobody else they can think of. Period.
Yes, right.
That's why.
just Robbie the Fire and Dave Smith, if you're some of those people. Yeah, I just think paleo libertarian kind of defines you. I like Lou Rockwell as one of my heroes. Jeff Deitz is one of my heroes. And so I know that they associate themselves with that, leaning that way. So that's, I do as well. And I feel more comfortable in that circle.
Where
This is a question
have
I've
you
been-
found? Well, I've got to say,
Go
have you found have your opinions, have your viewpoints, has anything changed over the past couple of years?
Oh, fuck yeah. I asked someone that, and I also won't say who, but someone said no to that question.
I don't even know
That's
how
always
possible.
that's scary when you hear
you
that.
Even if
not.
nothing crazy happened, that's a scary answer, because
You're-
we should really always be reanalyzing things, taking in new information.
Correct.
It doesn't mean your base philosophy needs to change, but if your perspectives aren't changing, then you're just asleep.
And that's what I like about this. Now I'm almost hesitant to say post-libertarian because it keeps getting thrown about now, and now that's getting
Yeah,
like, ooh,
and now it's
I
a new
don't like
label.
this.
Trying to
Yeah,
escape one label and
and
getting a new
right.
one.
And it's like, whatever, sure, if you say that, you say that. And I like the way Pete was describing it on his last show, but that's all we're doing is just discussing new ideas. It's not like we're saying I hate libertarianism or anything like that. We're just discussing. It's like you keep reading and you have new ideas. You can banter them about. Maybe you don't like it. And yeah, the biggest thing I learned from the last 18 months is you don't really need government to enforce a lot of tyranny. A lot of your neighbors do it voluntarily, even in Texas to an extent. I was in Austin; it was worse there, but I moved away. But the corporate thing is becoming pretty apparent. I don't know if you guys listen to Malice's new show with Alex Jones. I've been listening.
Not yet. No.
Oh my God, it's good.
It's
not
really
like
good.
Joe Rogan level great, but it's enjoyable. I shouldn't say.
Alex was on his best behavior for Alex.
Yeah, he was very very.
That's interesting because with Malice, I thought he'd be on. It would just be a real shit show.
We got a new comment.
Malice kept it.
Oh, there's my
Someone
man.
here cares. Why isn't he asking us about money? I don't get it. Sexy questions matter.
Malice kept it very structured for the most part. He had
Malice
like a
was
list
like,
of questions.
Stop having flat butts, libertarians.
But I've listened to Alex. He's from here,
What's up,
so
man?
I've listened to him since the late '90s, and it was really nice to hear him kind of evolve over the years into where he realizes Sandy Hook was fake. Not kidding.
Sexy boys. I just must have-
Well, we're kicked off YouTube now.
I'm
Thanks,
joking. YouTube people, but to realize that the corporate stuff, for one, they're not private entities. They're all funded by government and propped up by government, to say the least. And so to realize that's the new power, it's not necessarily government guns coming after us in the way that libertarians, including myself, have always qualified tyranny, but it's your neighbors sometimes, it's corporate power sometimes, propped up by government, of course.
And it's
So-
always been. It's really it's the realization now. It's the realization that this is something. I know that like we've been talking about this internally, and maybe it's leaked into podcasts here and there for years. But there's so much. I mean, this is Murray Rothbard's thing. It's do you hate the state? And yes, I hate the state. I hate what happens as a result of the state. But what do I hate when I hate the state? What am I really hating? Well, what is the state? The state is a manifestation, essentially, of what most of my family and neighbors want in some way, shape, or form. So do I hate my family and neighbors? No, I want to change the way they see the world, and I want to change what manifests in the world due to what I see as their very poor beliefs.
Right.
But I
also,
hate them? No, I hate what they conceive.
Agreed. And it's like, one of those things where we can look at the damage the state does, right? Obviously the war on drugs, obviously the military industrial complex and the damage it does overseas. But when you look at the reality of most people's everyday lives, their neighbors are far more dangerous. Like you talk about Black Americans, the lynchings that happened typically were not the state doing those lynchings. Those are neighbors doing those lynchings. Those are people in that they probably met that they know that are doing those lynchings. It's the people that now that are calling for, that'll rat you out and scream at your house, or these groups now that surround people's houses, these woke mobs that surround people's houses. Those are people's neighbors, It's
no one from DC. It's no one from Washington, DC, unless you live there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw one of my red pill moments through 2020 was I was in the music scene in Austin, and I would see musicians that I had played music with saying things, on one hand, defund the police. On the other hand, if someone leaves their house this summer, last year, there should be police drones filming them and having them arrested immediately. And it's like, damn. So the military, the industrial complex, the police industrial complex, they've got voluntary soldiers.
Exactly.
Who, it's on one hand claim to hate them, on the other hand will do their work for them. And so that's a whole nother level. It's stuff that I wasn't ready to deal with until it happened. And it's like, wait a second.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, a lot of the policies put into place are supported, like you say, supported by these willing people. And it's also those things where a lot of the shit the government gets away with, they could not get away with if at some level there wasn't the will of the people behind them, at least initially. And that's the terrifying thing too, and why we have to constantly be pushing back against this, because the will of the people enables X, Y, and Z, continues to grow from there. And then we see people be complacent. And I've argued this before in the past too, is that, and other people have made this point, it's not exclusive, but we have it so good in this country too, that people typically will overlook so much because their everyday lives really aren't impacted. It's
correct.
Just, they don't give a shit about the war on drugs because it's not impacting them. They don't give a shit about the military industrial complex because it's not impacting them personally. And, for the most part, a lot of people's taxes, if they're not getting paid off by the government to not complain about their lot in life, well, they can survive. They still have a house. They still have access to all the cheap food, the cheap amenities, the cheap goods and services that are provided to us. So they're not going to.
That's the difference between the Brave New World thing and the I've had too much bourbon already. A Brave New World.
That's not true.
No
You have
such
not
thing,
had
not
enough
possible.
bourbon, and the lack of bourbon is getting in the
in
way of your thinking.
1984.
Oh, this goddamn background is making me so angry. I'm losing my fucking mind. Sorry. Go ahead.
fine.
Yeah,
It looks
exactly.
good. It's
Aldous
good.
Huxley
Good
versus, yeah, exactly.
Correct. Yeah.
Well,
They lull you to sleep and allow you to just be fulfilled with these cheap, flimsy pleasures, and you just want what they give you. The other thing is that they're actually actively taking over with guns. It's a difference,
Right.
and yeah.
Yeah, and we know that in America, because we've lost so many wars. Sorry, Odie. I know you're
keep
interested.
interrupting me.
I know, sorry. We know, we've seen a hot war where the United States government actively fights against its own population. The United States government is likely to lose because we lose all the time against, our smallly armed populations.
Yes,
That's
thank
not
you.
true, Brian. You don't have
It
any
is
nukes.
100%.
You don't have any nukes. You would lose.
Hands up, don't nuke.
Hands up, don't nuke. Forthcoming, Mark. It's forthcoming to the Lions Liberty store.
Will it be in the store by the time this airs? Can we say it is?
Probably not, but you should go to lionsliberty.store to check it out. And
Yeah.
you can buy it for 20% off that order anyway.
All of our other great
We got other
t-shirts.
stuff there.
But,
We
you know,
do
when
not
you
have
look at...
Death the Tyrant shirts, unfortunately.
No,
I
sadly.
don't
We
either.
should
I'm sold out.
Nobody
We should have bought one and sold it on our store
We
at
should
a
have
five times markup.
You should. And if you have anything to say about it, talk to Stefan Kinsella.
But no, the point I just want to finish up, then I'll let Odie talk, is that the government, when you look at it, they have no option to have a hot war here domestically. Their only option is to slowly drown us in a warm bath where people are too content and too happy and too sedated to put up a fight.
They're not doing a very good part of the too content part right now.
Well,
for most
yeah,
people.
but people are
I don't
angry at
think-
each other, not the government.
I don't think they have to. Yeah, they're obviously
true.
trying to do
That's
that, and they'll always try to do that. But they don't have to keep us content anymore, and they don't have to kill us. And you've talked about this, Brian, and we've probably all talked about it on our shows. All they have to do is take away our access to influence people, to have a podcast, to be on YouTube, to have a platform. They can cut you off like that, no problem.
I mean, we've been demonetized for 2 years now on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Have you
they
really?
haven't taken it away, but they've
No way to get it
hindered
fixed. We can't figure out how to fix it.
And I think Alex Jones was talking about that
He did.
on part of the show today,
Yep.
where, just in order for him to, accept credit cards and banking and all that stuff, he has to pay more money. Like right now, they're still letting him do it. But, well, you just got to pay a little more. The fees are going to be this much higher. So at some point, it's going to be, well, you know what? No more. We don't want your money anymore.
Yep. And he made a very good point, because I've heard, I don't like when conspiracy theorists come after Alex, maybe because I'm biased because I've heard him for so long, and they'll say, well, he's just part of the system, and he's controlled opposition and all this stuff. I always think you're just jealous because he got more famous than you did doing the same thing. But they've always said, well, if he was legit, they'd take him out. And to your point, John, he mentioned this on Malice's show. They have taken him out. They've taken him off every platform that he was on. That's how you do it now. They don't need to come to his door and shoot him. Yeah. They need to take him off of every platform that he was on, and they did that. They did it to the president, crazy enough. Yep. And so and Vin Armani spoke on this too. They're not going to come and take your gun. They're going to lock you in your house.
No, they'll make you, because coming and taking your gun. I mean, either way, if they come and take your gun and you go out shooting, now you're a real martyr, right? And there's that whole big conversation about martyrism and all that other shit. Then you're a real martyr. If you just silence somebody, deplatform them, undermine them, and make them out to be a kook, then they just fade away. Yep. You know? And empirically, Neil Young was right. Better to burn out than to fade away. Or Neil Diamond, maybe better to burn out than fade away. So, yeah.
Which it kind of worries me, like, to go back to what we were talking about with, the complicated entanglement between the state and corporations, and how we have corporations really exacting, in many cases, more tyranny than the state. And what Dave Smith is doing, or will be doing, when he runs for president, running a libertarian campaign, it's difficult to run a political campaign against the government, trying to make government smaller, and also against corporations. I don't know how you really do that, honestly, and communicate it in a cohesive way, because I don't know how to communicate what the solution needs to be in a coherent way.
It's
not
easy,
cohesive.
John. You just end the state and the corporations.
I think. Well, look, I hate to come back and plug an episode that I already
No, you
did,
don't.
but I don't hate it. I love it. But no, I think I honestly believe. I did an episode called "You're Not the," right, and the emphasis was on changing the way we message, and I do think this is an important thing. Even though I don't know if I convinced anybody in the episode, but a lot of what we're communicating gets much less complicated if you just make it personal to people. It's like I was talking about. So instead of attacking corporations as a monolithic thing, we must attack corporations, attack people's individual ways in which they're affected by crony capitalism, by corporations and the government being tied in together, and point that out in a way that's relatable and makes them think of other ways that they are being impacted. If you do that, then you start a cascade in their mind that's actually be far more effective than just saying, look at that big fucking thing, because people are going to go, what do we do about that big fucking thing? I don't know. But if you got people pissed off thinking about how they've been wronged by that thing, how their everyday lives are impacted by that thing, then they might actually start to think of ways that they personally can fight back against it. Look at the fight back against the cable companies, right? Everybody said, I'm cutting the cord. Now, granted, it's all fucking stupid because now we all have 60 different subscriptions, which I just wish they put it back together in a thing called cable again, and I can have it all in one fucking
It's still
place.
better. Cable's still horrible. I don't care what anyone says.
that's
Chris
your
Spangle,
choice.
if you're listening, fuck your cable, Chris Spangle.
You sound like Chris Spangle right now, Brian.
Whatever.
I gotta
He's-
subscribe to 17 different. No, you don't.
I
You
am
have
Chris
two.
Spangle.
I know.
but
Most
you
people don't
know what I'm
realize this.
saying.
Brian McGlames is the co-host of the Miss Pat show.
But you know what I'm saying, though, is that, look, that got people thinking about the way they were personally being impacted. Everybody cut the cord. Now they have more selection, right? We've opened this up. More freedom, more choice. Do that with everything. Make it fucking personal, and people will find ways to expand their own freedom within that context.
All right, guys, before we wrap up here, I got to let you know about one of our great sponsors, our longtime sponsors at Lorenzotti, Italy. If you are a fan of coffee, if you like a nice, fresh cup of joe to wake up in the morning, as I do, you're going to want to check out our friends at Lorenzotti, Italy. They deliver fine, premium Italian coffees right to your door in these nice little tins that look so wonderful sitting on your counter there. And if that weren't all enough, these guys are great libertarians. They are Patreon supporters of this show. They are absolutely worthy of your support. If that all wasn't enough, these guys do more than just sell coffee. They also help other entrepreneurs set up their own coffee businesses, help them acquire equipment, acquire financing, everything they need to start their own coffee business, start their own coffee shops. So you definitely want to check them out for that reason if that's something that's been on your mind. Either way, just fantastic people at Lorenzotti, Italy. Amazing people, fantastic people. You'll want to support them if you're fans of the show. Heck, even if you're not, if you're listening to this by accident, check them out anyway. They have great coffee. Lorenzotti, Italy. You can find them at lorenzotti.coffee. That's LORENZOTTI.coffee. And you do not want to forget your Lions of Liberty listener discount. Just use discount code ROAR for 10% off your order.
Well, killed the show again. Thanks a lot, Brian.
No.
Well, good. I can go out on a fucking high note because that was deep.
Stop being poor, Brian. That's all.
I'm trying.
Me too.
God, I'm trying.
Have you talked to Jason about how to stop being poor?
Jay, just
I
text
talked
him,
to everybody about stop being
just
poor
text
on the
him.
street
Just
when I
text him.
I talk to everybody on the street when I'm wiping their windshields with newspaper.
Just text Jason Stapleton.
So how do
Can
I
you
stop
please just
being
tell me?
poor?
I don't know why. I've known you for years now. Just tell me I'm going to stop being poor. Come on.
I'm
the
not
ebook.
poor. I'm not rich, but I'm not poor.
No, none of us are poor because poor people don't have computers and microphones. Real poor people. And I think the concept of what poor is has changed so much over the last 20, 30, 100 years, whatever it may be, that we can't even conceive what poor to me is when I'm upset because I have more bills than I'm used to, or, you know, something, poor to any of us is not what real poor is to
Well, who do we blame
people
for
in
that,
history
though?
and many people now.
You know, who
Go
can blame
see,
for
if
that?
you want to see
School.
real poor and you want to help real poor people, go see our friends over at DonorSee. And
Good segue.
you can make a huge difference in someone's life
Absolutely.
for $5 or $10. But anyway, go ahead, Brian.
Quite literally, you can help people.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I mean, whose fault is it that we don't understand what poor is anymore? It's because the government, the U.S. government, has continued to support people and say where the poverty line is, but they keep jacking up the poverty line and providing with all these services and free phones and free all this shit, where you could be in the poverty line and live a fantastic life of apartments, cell phones, iPhones, big screen TVs, and all this other shit.
Yeah, if you have any of those things, you're not poor.
Yeah, they
If
keep
you have one of
raising
those,
the
you're not
poverty line up, despite the fact that people, millions are under it. And so we don't realize what poverty is. If they kept it at the literal line of real poverty, then we go, oh shit. And we'd also realize how good everybody else has it. Or how good we have it.
Is that a Zippix?
It is a Zippix. They're no longer a sponsor, though, so don't buy them until they come
they're
back
not no
on.
longer a sponsor.
They can still use the code. If
No,
people use the code.
Maybe you can. Actually, you could probably still use the code Lion or Roar. Roar is the last code. But
It'd be bad business to take the code away.
Or Counterflow.
Never
it
take
would
the
be
code
stupid to take the code away. Yeah.
Use promo code.
Oh yeah,
Death to Tyrants.
Buck referred them to us. Thank you for that, Buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use referral code Death to Tyrants for that. That one. Anyway, Paloma Verde. Check out Paloma Verde CBD because it's awesome and the gummies are delicious. And also, you can use discount code ROAR for 25% off your order. Thank you.
There you go.
We're actually, the sponsorship has begun in theory, but yeah, I'm waiting for the product in the mail. I haven't actually had their stuff yet. I'm gonna be
It's
honest.
so good.
I don't want to lie to you, but it's on the way, and it won't be here by the time the show ends. So that's why I'm just saying. I'm assuming.
I'm going to actively be quiet since I've been. Now I've had a martini and a half, which is why I'm going on.
I have now upgraded to
raving.
whiskey. At some point when you guys were ranting, I snuck away, and there's now whiskey in my.
Are you drinking out of what is that?
Yeah,
you're
it's like
drinking
one of
out
these. It's like one of these.
Is that one of those
what do you
urine
call
cups you get at the doctor's? Like
Yeah,
a
it's
double
actually my
decker urine
I drink.
cup?
You don't do this. So you guys don't do it like this.
Mark
I
just
drink
takes them off the
whiskey.
counter as he leaves, and he's like, "Free cups."
Yeah, I take the pee cups. I drink the whiskey. 2 hours later, I pee it out. Then I drink it. That's not.
Well, urine is sterile, so I mean,
Yeah, which is why there was a James Bond movie one time where James Bond threw urine in somebody's eyes, and I was like, I wouldn't do anything. Urine in your eyes wouldn't even hurt. It's sterile. It's not. It's not high acidic content.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, if you didn't know it was pee, you'd probably be like, why are you throwing apple juice at me? If you knew it was pee, you'd be like, maybe a little more annoyed.
So why is R. Kelly in so much trouble?
Mm.
I mean, that's
Probably has to do with the underage girls. But
that
do we want to go down that
just 1 second,
avenue?
guys.
That
Talk
avenue
about this
of
subject.
age of consent?
Guys, I need a second. I'm going to bring in a caller. I've got Thaddeus Russell on the line to discuss this.
Oh,
issue.
shit.
Thaddeus, could you please tell me your position on underage girls and if they exist? Buck, you can take the question. I'm just having fun. I love Thaddeus, and this is one of the latest libertarian controversies. We can get into it, we cannot. But something happened on Twitter, and Thaddeus has been talking with us for years, so it's nothing new for him. But I don't know how it became a new thing on Twitter, where just the concept of age of consent, that is something that he questions, and I think it deserves questioning. And yes. I'm gonna say that without ever thinking 1 second that I support molesting children or taking advantage of people, and neither does Thaddeus Russell, because I've heard him talk about this a lot. But when things get turned into a Twitter feud or a Twitter soundbite or whatever, they turn into a new thing. Doesn't mean I agree with his position necessarily, but I think it's a concept worth talking about because it's extremely important, because what happens to children is extremely fucking important. Mm-hmm. And that's my setup for you guys to start talking about things.
I'm in a Telegram group with the Hoppians, who are obviously all far right wing,
all racist, yes,
anarchists, and I found it really refreshing that as that controversy was happening, I was in that group, and 95% of them were on Thad's side.
That is fascinating.
And they said they were a little embarrassed for right wingers. They said the pedo insult is the right wing version of saying you're racist over anything that sounds slightly like, I don't like that. It's like,
it's a
hold
good
on,
comparison.
Think it through. And all he's saying, and I had just hung out with him like 2 weeks prior to this blowing up.
The two of you and a couple of 12-year-olds just
and Hope Deb Jesus, of course.
Yes,
there and just fawning.
All Thad's point is, it's very much like the war on drugs, and I think John would appreciate this. Like, is it really worth locking people up and or putting them on some list for the rest of their life if they're 18 and their girlfriend's 16?
Yeah,
they're in high school still. That's crazy.
Yeah, the Romeo and Juliet shit is just absolutely insane.
That's his main point. And so
I think where he gets more ire is when he brings up the concept, the idea that that what matters to an extent is if the the child or whatever you want to call them feels victimized or not. I think that's where he got a lot of pushback when he said someone presented a scenario. I think this is how it started, actually. If like a 40-year-old teacher sleeps with a student because the student wants whatever, I don't know if they want better grades, then maybe they really like the teacher, and the teacher sleeps with that student, is that wrong or not? Or should it be illegal? I don't remember what the actual premise was.
It happens all the time with men, with boys in high school boys.
Yeah, it happens a lot with teachers
in their
teachers,
20s and female teachers in their 20s and 30s.
And they're usually pretty hot.
I know.
Yeah,
I've
and
always
those,
been so
I mean,
freaking
I would
jealous.
Every
almost
time I'm looking, I'm like, really?
Why did that not happen to me?
I know.
Yeah.
Actually, our buddy Ackland banged his teacher.
Hey, don't come on! You can't.
He did. He banged his teacher. He was dealing
only
weed,
said his
and he sold her
last
weed, and
name,
then he
so.
banged her.
Yeah.
Then he banged her.
Yeah,
Good for him. And he was not that good looking. And
here
still
in
isn't.
Texas,
No,
it'd be
he's-
some 30-something-year-old beautiful teacher, a female, that slept with like a 16-year-old guy, and I would think, damn, the luck of that son of a bitch.
Seriously.
I
It's like
never
that South
had that.
Park where they're
And
like,
that
nice.
kid has been talking about that his whole life.
Did he get
And
his
it's
luckiest boy in the
totally-
world trophy?
Yes.
I mean, and I think it's an interesting idea. Like, yeah, I think it's easy when we say the 18-year-old dating the 16-year-old, but I think it is, I don't want to say more complicated, but it's very different when we are talking about the 40-year-old with the 14-year-old. And like, I don't know, I'm not trying to carry water for anybody or misrepresent anyone's position, but Thad often will bring up the idea that if the person doesn't feel victimized, are they really a victim? And I think that's where it gets tricky for all of us, because I don't know, an 8-year-old might not feel, and I'm going from 14 to 8 for a reason, because a 14-year-old I think does have more cognizance than an 8-year-old, and nowhere near the cognizance of a 24-year-old. And that's what makes all this difficult, is because we're all talking about spectrums here.
I
And
can
it's not
tell you
the
for a
same
fact, 8-year-olds are all idiots. But
So yeah,
Well, and
that's
there's
why I went to
also-
8-year-olds, because I think we would all obviously say an 8-year-old, even if they don't feel victimized, can be victimized, and that's kind of the idea.
But there's also the idea. Here's where I disagree with Thad on this point, though, is that if somebody doesn't necessarily feel victimized, there's also grooming, where you can be groomed along the way, in which you're not going to feel victimized because you've been groomed to not feel victimized. You've basically
that's where I
been
was going.
conditioned mentally to accept that, to view it as a good thing. So, and that can happen at any age, by the way, but it does become a lot
It
easier
happened
the
when
younger
you're
the person
40.
is. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Totally.
we've groomed Buck to come on this show, and and he wanted to come on it like an idiot. So he's been groomed perfectly.
grooming him for years.
We
He doesn't even
groomed him
know
to
it.
come on this show about child molestation. So,
This is a grand scheme.
but you know what I'm saying? Like
Manipulation at the grand level.
that's where that standard doesn't really hold water, because you cannot simply say if they don't feel victimized. It's the only standard I could agree with is that if you go, okay, if they are cognizant, if they know what they're doing, if they seem to have an adult mentality as far as the topic is concerned. But even that's so subjective.
Yeah,
And
that's
how do you
that standard
prove
is
it?
have.
clear
It's
as
very
mud,
subjective.
Brian.
How do you prove it? Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I can't even support that. And that's the only reason I say I think there has to be a hard cutoff. And I'm not saying it has to be 18.
But who decides
I
it?
think 16 might make more sense. Even 15 would make sense to me, because kids are already having sex at that age. You
I
may
think the
regret
fact
it,
that you're saying it
but you're
like
not
this
taking
proves
advantage of it.
how not hard it can be. Because
Yeah.
if you're saying maybe 16, maybe 15, well, then why should the guy if you decide, or whoever decides 16, and again, we have the same problem, the 16 and 1 day year old with the 14-year-old. Well, why
Well,
is
it
that
depends,
wrong
and
now?
it depends on the individual. And
It does.
also, I think it's
And how do you
different
write a
between
law
the
like that?
sexes. I know controversial, but there's 2 different sexes. Only 2 in this
And
world.
we only have
So
2 of them represented here right now. So that's,
guess which one is.
I'll leave that up to the listeners and the viewer.
And the punishment comes into it as well, because you can't put someone, if you're dealing with, again, 14 and 16 or 15 and 17, you can't put someone on a list for the rest of their life
Right.
for something so ridiculous like that.
That's a good point
So-
too. Assume it's a real crime. Like, assume a 24-year-old literally took advantage of, say, a 16-year-old, and we all agree, society, the 4 of us all agree it was wrong. Should that person have to be on a list when they're 54?
Right.
And,
Right.
and they can't even like move to a neighborhood that's within 7 miles of a school or whatever the fuck it is. Should that person's life be ruined, even if we agree they did the wrong thing?
Can
even if we
these
agree
list
they committed a crime?
makers? Can these list makers just look at the picture of the 16-year-old and be like, "She's pretty hot"?
I think we all
I
agree it
see
should
it.
come
I
down to
get
the
it.
hotness of
I
everyone
get it.
involved.
You got to take a hotness into account here. You know? But no, that's a good point. It's also, I mean, I think Yeah, they definitely. I don't approve of the list of child molesters because it's so broad. Like you even hear what people are arrested for and put on that list for. It's very
Right.
broad. It's not even necessarily fucking. It can be getting. Like there was one story I remember. It was a guy that got texted a picture. He didn't even ask for it. His younger girlfriend sent him a picture of her tits on text message. And he was 17 and she was 15 or something like that. And because of that, he ended up getting on this sexual molester list, getting on, having some charges that were, I think, delayed. No, he didn't go to jail, but put on, criminal record, put on probation. And it's like, he's like, I didn't ask to get sent these titty pictures, man. Like, what do you want me to tell you? So, yeah, the list itself, any government list is bullshit, period.
I think we need a child, like under the age of, I don't know, some cutoff. There
But
is
again, that's the
a
problem.
czar that is elected by the people
Look,
that determines each case.
I think, Odie, I think we can all agree. Let's all just right now. We're going to settle it right here with this brain trust.
Maybe
There
we
is
can just settle it, the four of
there's-
us.
All right, this is the post-pedophilia panel right here.
There is a fucking.
We need to move on past
There's
pedophilia.
a fucking age we can all agree is too young, right? We can all agree it's too young. Why don't we talk about it? Why don't you? Let's all of us throw out an age you think is
Here's the
100% too young,
Here's the issue.
and we can argue about it.
Here's the issue. No matter what age anyone says right now, you still have the issue of what is the arbitrary reason that one day above that age makes a difference from one day below that age, and there's never going to be a good answer. And so I can't.
And
There's not
every
gonna be an
individual is
age
different. I mean,
Well, I
I don't
think
know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I agree, but at some point, I don't know. There's got to be an agreed on standard, and yeah, you can argue
All
about
right,
it.
if
But
you've had a bar mitzvah, you're good.
Yeah.
Rule
Quinceañera.
13.
Yeah.
It should
It's
probably be a
just-
lot lower than it is, to be honest.
I'm going to say, well, if we go with libertarians, since most libertarians 25 aren't even having sex yet, so we can start at 25.
30.
Okay, we can have regular people age and libertarian age. Libertarian 30, regular
Libertarian
people
age
14.
of consent 56.
You have your
I'm
real-
laughing, but that's, I mean, Mark's talked about this a little bit, but that's terrifying.
It is.
that there's,
Yeah, it is.
And that's not
it's the
just
most
libertarians. I think
terrifying
that
thing
stat is like the United States. Like it's happening
That
across
stat,
the
the
board.
fertility
Yeah.
stat. I mean, this is really scary stuff.
Well, getting back, I'm going to go with. I think 13 is a little too young for me. I'm going to go 14.
I'm going to isolate that soundbite right there.
That's the new
my cold
intro to
open.
that's the new intro to Electric Liberty Land.
13
Clint,
is
take
I'm
it
going to
wrap.
go with a 14-year-old, please.
Yeah,
Brian Williams,
I think
Esquire.
14 is, even though I still think that's a little young. I think that could be an absolute dead set cutoff, and you could have a little gray zone.
So under your
know.
idea, if a 16-year-old fucks a 14-year-old, 16-year-old in jail?
Well, I was going to add this contingency in. I think there has to be, and you nailed the age difference. I think the 2 year gap. If they can overlap in school,
Yeah.
not two
That's
different
actually
schools
not
in
an
the same
unreasonable
school,
comparison.
right? If you can overlap in the same school, which a lot of us is 4 years, you can date.
I actually
That's it.
like that one the best. If you're in the same school, you can fuck.
Yeah,
That's actually, yeah.
then you're gonna have
Same school.
18-year-olds
What about-
banging
so
There you
4-year-olds
go.
kids-
in
Society's gonna
Catholic
agree.
schools.
If society's going to agree that you can intermingle all the time in the same area, that's the standard, really. If you can all work together, you can all fuck. If you can all be in army together, you can all fuck. If you can all be in the same school, you can all fuck. Not the teachers the same. I mean, obviously we have to say that differently, but I think that's actually the more reasonable than a random age cutoff.
I just got up to get water from the bathroom and realized my
Next
bedroom
up,
door
Brian
and the
McLean goes
hallway.
back to middle school. You just want to try it again, everybody.
Hey,
Billy
fellow
Madison
kids.
way.
He's going to get his backpack and his clear pencil holder.
Exactly.
back.
I'll be like the
Hey,
Steve
fellow
Buscemi.
kids.
Hey, fellow kids. No, I'm
Back
just
to
laughing.
school,
I'm
back
yelling
to
about
school.
Yeah, but
child
you don't need to announce when you walk
molestation.
away. You just do it quietly.
No. I'm back because of the funniness. So I got up to get my drink of water, and I realized that I left my door open that goes straight through the bedroom, straight down the hall, and all the doors are open to my 1.5-year-old's bedroom.
And
As
you
I'm
have some
yelling about
explaining to
child
do.
molestation.
And she was sitting up, eyes wide open, listening in horror.
With
So-
eyes
And,
wide open.
Short story is Brian has to have a little talk tonight with his wife about his position on children. But anyway, that actually, in all seriousness, that makes a lot more sense than any other random age cutoff. The random age thing is causes so many problems.
I mean, the main point here is it's completely insane for if you have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, 17-year-old and a 15-year-old, for one of them to have, for the older one to have their life ruined because they had sex. That's just insanity.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we could even determine like, okay, maybe this thing, quote unquote, shouldn't be allowed. Maybe there should be a punishment at certain ages. But no matter what, I mean, it's worse than the felon label. Like the felon label hinders you all throughout life. I'd rather be a felon than on the sex offender list.
Yep.
Because I can explain to someone why I'm a felon. I don't think I can explain to anyone why it's not a big deal that I'm on the sex offender list and try to work my way around society with that. And that was most likely or more likely probably something innocent. Not innocent in a sense that obviously, but that's the point though, that people assume sex offender list, this is a rapist, when it could just be an 18-year-old who slept with a 16-year-old, and that should not ever be in the same category as maybe someone who raped eight women, but they're the same person according to that list.
Or just send a picture on their phone. I mean,
exactly.
Even more innocent. You're right.
And the thing is too, it's like, you think about, like you're saying, your life's ruined. If you just see the application, you're an employer, you're whatever it is. Matthew Erickson, and the younger one needs her life ruined too. Half the time that does happen. But
and I believe that's the point. Also, he says
you're doing a background check or a job check.
Being poor.
Stop being poor, and you'll stop being molested.
All right.
That's simple.
Here's the thing: if you're 14 and poor, then that.
It's the state.
We laugh at Matt for that critique, but he's right. I mean,
I laugh at the meme. I laugh at the
meme.
meme. I don't laugh at Matt for it. Matt's absolutely right.
Poor Buck he's a very polite person, and he's not screaming over us. You have to learn to scream over us.
You actually,
my point was just it's the state version.
Listen, Mr. Death Tyrants, time to scream over us.
The Me Too movement went all the way from this guy raping chicks to Louis C.K. asking for permission, getting permission, and then doing his thing in front of a woman.
And then it went to Aziz Ansari.
Aziz Ansari.
Just having a fucking fine date that went okay. And
a date in which she did nothing wrong the entire time.
So to pretend the sex offender list should be a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old that hooked up in high school versus also a 50-year-old and a 4-year-old, it's all the same. Well, that's insane.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why we need Libertarian Pedo Court. Moderated by
we just found a rebranding.
We did. There you go.
We got it.
Rebranding solved.
All the wrestling fans
that would get us some attention. That's for sure.
There was WWE court in the back, and the Undertaker presided over all of the cases. So
that's not a storyline. That's like real life. This is actually an interesting concept of like private court, actually.
Yes.
Buck, I'm glad you brought this up, and I'm glad you reminded me why we need to start a wrestling podcast someday here.
Oh, I think you're gonna say why we need to run with this Libertarian Pedo Court idea. Justice
that too.
We'll name him a Justice Gene Epstein, so he'll oversee it. All right. Who will be? You are the pedophile. I mean, sir, please come up here and defend yourself.
Glenn Jacobs is my justice of this not libertarian pedo court necessarily.
I don't think he's going to be in for that. He's going to stay a mayor.
He doesn't have a choice. He's been drafted. It's too late. No, but this is what Buck is talking about is in the WWE locker room over the decades, whenever someone would have an infraction, meaning they didn't necessarily break a law of the locker room, meaning they crossed someone in some way, they would have a way to settle it privately. They didn't go to the boss. They didn't go to Vince McMahon. They went to wrestlers' court, and they had a hearing in the locker room. And the Undertaker was so respected over the years that he became basically like the final arbiter. But he earned that. He wasn't a tyrant. He wasn't a dictator who assumed that title violently. He was given that title due to the respect that he had earned over the years of being this kind of arbiter. And people would respect his decision. And that is a very good analogy of what a Liberty Court would be. It would be something, or a more libertarian society where we judge things in a better way. When we appoint someone to be the judge, not because they seized power, but because they earned respect, and people in the whole society generally agree we can all trust this person or this group or whatever it may be to be a fair arbiter. Doesn't mean they're going to decide in our favor. It means we respect the decision. And that is a great model for Liberty Court or Libertarian Pedo Court or whatever it may be.
We're going to
LPC.
have Justice Jeff Deist will decide if Dave Smith or Vin Armani was correct on the Predator.
Also, there will be mud wrestling match to determine if
Yes.
in the tie. Oh man! Well, should we just go there since we've circled back there?
Yeah, we can circle
Do you
back.
guys want to go?
Wait into the Vin and Dave thing.
Is
that
this
what we're
is
saying?
this on the main show or is this bonus show?
Well, we
Is
can
this main
decide.
show?
We've been going for a while now. We could dovetail into bonus content and really tease the Patreon if we want. I wouldn't mind going a little bit. How about we do this? Let's do about 10 more minutes or so. We'll see where that takes us. And then if Buck, if you got a little more time, if you guys got a little more time, we'll do, a little bit of a bonus show too and go a little deeper.
I got plenty of time.
Well,
So
Buck's
let's
on
surface
Central
level
time,
talk
right?
about it. Let's surface level talk about it. How about that?
What
'Cause
do we call it? We're talking Dan Spots is Central Time too. From System is Down. What do we call it? Dickhead time?
I don't care who's
Cocksucker time. We call it cocksucker time. Yeah, CT.
There you go.
Because it's so annoying to remember for us that aren't on it.
It's
So-
only the center of the country.
Well, the center
you
of the dick, a center of the dick might be the biggest part, but it's the least interesting.
Wow.
No chick you walk up to is like, how big's the center of your dick? They don't fucking care.
Has any chick ever been said how big is any specific part of anyone's dick? Has anyone ever said
Probably also the most important part of your dick, I would think, the center.
that? I mean, it's where
Well,
everything
I know-
is, right?
So here's the question. You know you get your dick
This
cut
really
off.
went. I thought we were going to talk about Vin Armani and Dave.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We're saying that. Yeah, we
Sidebar
got off tech.
with the
Odie, you
Gigolo
do all
thing and-
prison
yeah.
podcasts, and you come in with that detail.
Here's the
Listen to
podcast.
Odie's other podcast, Center Dickin', where Odie goes around and measures the center of people's dicks.
Here's
It
my
is a little
statement.
it is a little surprising that I had this Felony Friday podcast talking to people who've been through prison and not have one person talk about getting raped on the podcast.
That would have
which-
been one of my questions every time.
Yeah.
That's
a good question,
It just
Odie.
doesn't really happen.
Does it mean it
that
didn't
often.
happen, or does it mean you just didn't ask the hard questions?
Maybe I didn't ask the hard question.
Because I don't believe I've ever heard you explicitly say, "By the way, ever get raped?" Never heard that.
Well, I mean, this is also really fucked up. But I have had
But as
women.
soon as I end the interview, it's the first thing I ask.
I just don't even record it. I just want to ask it.
Here comes a
No,
soundbite.
I have had
had
women
women.
on though, and it's terrible what happens to women by way of male prison guards in prison.
sure,
I mean, there's
yeah.
a lot of. That's probably where most of the abuse happens.
Yeah, that makes more. I mean, on TV, like if you just watch Oz or whatever, you just think everyone's getting raped, and I'm sure male-on-male rape happens all the time for a variety of reasons, power structures, this sort of thing.
Hierarchies. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that stuff. I
yeah.
think rape in prison is more about the hierarchies than it is in showing who's boss or whatever. But I mean, for women to be in that situation with male guards, I imagine is just an entirely horrifying, much more horrifying situation that doesn't really get talked about, nearly as
They
much.
should be on the list for long term. Those guys.
Yeah, there's that. That's the rape list. See, the rape
Indeed.
list.
They should be
that's
in
a
the rape
long-term list. That's a long-term list. The rape
Yeah.
list.
Anybody who is a prison guard for more than 20 years, I'm skeptical about
It's
what's
same,
happening there.
Same.
Yeah, but what if you're like Tom
I understand.
Cruise?
I understand if you spend some time in the profession,
Tom
you're
Hanks.
like, oh wow, I got to get out of here. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A year or
Stick
two,
around,
and then
you
you
know.
do something else. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that. If you've been there for decades, you probably like it, and that's fucked.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. I don't know if I'm a firefighter. I don't know if people listening know that, but I have made multiple calls in various prisons within the city that I work in. It's depressing. And I always leave there going, who the fuck could work there and see this on a daily basis? It's just so depressing. I mean, the colors are bland. It's yellows and tans, locked up cages.
Oh, that's racist.
It's just, you just look around and go,
Colors and tans, eh?
yeah, it's just gross. Who could walk into this daily as their office? I'd rather go to a cubicle, which is also depressing, but I'd rather do that.
It's very depressing.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Matt chimes in. I'll put his. I remember this too. Jason.
Oh
talked
yeah,
about
he
this.
was.
Yeah,
Stapleton was
Jason-
a lot of shit. For
Stapleton was a
time.
prison guard at one point, but yeah, again, to Odie's point, he did it for like a year or two or something like that.
I don't think he was. I think he was a prison guard
Well-
for like a couple months. He was a cop for I think
Yeah.
a year.
Point being,
It's one of those things. Why,
not what he's
like,
doing now.
why young people need to work, and I don't say they need to be prison guards, but need to work shitty jobs because you need that motivation young to be like, fuck, I do not want to do this the rest of my life.
If you're working the shitty job when you're 45, you need, that's the guy you got to watch out for.
Yeah. That's when the Mexicans should take your job.
They should really take it. A 25-year-old Mexican, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm being ageist and racist all at once. I don't know what to think about the whole thing.
Do we want to circle back to Vin and Dave, or save that for bonus? I know we already talked about that, but
let's tease it, and then let's do both. Let's have all the best worlds. Let's talk about it a little bit.
I'll kick it off a little bit. I mean, you've had Vin on your show, Mark, several times, and
Dave a plethora of times,
and Dave thousands of times, and I respect both of them greatly.
Vin's never debated Archie, though.
Oh my God, I want Vin to debate Archie. That's the oh my God, that's the debate. I don't know what the premise is, but I want that debate now. Vin's just talking about God.
Vin would hang up.
I don't think. But are you racist, sir?
Do you like bunnies?
Yeah, let me find a meme for what I want to say. But I remember, like, and you brought this up in the episode episode with Clint this week or last week, whenever this is airing.
When you're listening.
But I mean, Vin called this whole thing with the lockdowns, with the masking, with everything that's happened. He pretty much called everything, and he got out. And that's, I mean, I don't think people do criticize him for leaving. I don't personally.
I think there's a dumb criticisms on so many levels that I can't
Agreed.
even. First of all, he's still in the U.S., so he didn't really leave that much.
And you could argue that maybe he should have gone somewhere else out of the U.S. if he was really trying to leave. Because
if anybody should criticize him on anything, it should be you didn't go far enough outside the empire. If you were going to criticize him, which I wouldn't on that either. But someone who really put themselves in a way better situation. Vin never had to wear a mask. His family never had to wear a mask. His family was never locked down. His family never got yelled at by a fucking Karen like I have, like what Brian I'm sure has, like we probably all have at some point here. So is that really a valid? Am I going to take anyone seriously that criticizes? You can criticize his viewpoints. That I'm all for. Criticize viewpoints, his tactics, going after Dave. I don't care if you criticize that. But to toss out this, you just ran away thing, that's just the dumbest shit I can think.
The criticism I can understand is that, and I think Clint brought this up too in his show, is not everybody can do that, right? You can't. Not everybody can pick up and leave and fly and spend all the money to fly across the country.
But more people can do it than they think, and I think that's one thing
more
that
people
is
can than they think. And I made this argument.
All of
moving
us here
domestically.
can do it. We all choose not to. Everyone on this show right now can do it. It might be difficult. It might be uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
We all have the capability to do it.
Yeah.
Well, this goes back to my point about everybody has it too comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. Even you're locked down. Okay. All right. I got to wear a mask. All right, I'll wear a mask a little bit, but I'm still getting paid. I'm working from home. I still go out. The stores are open. I got Netflix. HBO Max gives me fresh new movies.
Liberty's doing streams.
Getting fucking food delivered to your house. I mean, that's
the thing is, it's like, okay, we're not in a position, and that's the thing. Maybe it's the conflicts of technology and convenience that has kept people here. Maybe if it was 30 years ago, a lot more people would be like, fuck this, I'm out. But right now, they're like, whatever, man. I'm getting paid. The government's paying me more than I can get to work. And that's the government's fault too. But still, the inconvenience, the lockdown inconvenience, I hate it. It's fucked my business. It's fucked a lot of businesses. But the majority of people, the everyday working people, it was great for them. It was fucking great. Why are they going to pick up and fucking leave? They're not. That's the counterpoint to it.
Well, Vin's not talking to those people, though.
Right.
But those are the people those are the people that matter as far as actually making any sort of impact. So, okay, you're preaching to the people that are going to listen to you that can move. Okay, how many people is that? A couple thousand?
Well, he's not just preaching to those people.
He's not trying to save the world. He's trying to talk to people in our area that have this mentality.
I agree, man, but it's going to make no impact. Zero impact. None.
Well, it's already made it. I mean, Vin's. I'll say this: Vin has made a larger impact in my life spiritually than Dave Smith has, and you can easily argue that that's the most important thing in life. So, I mean,
that's my nose looks so broken.
I think saying zero impact is actually completely absurd.
Now, I'm not saying Vin has made zero impact. I'm saying what he is advocating for would make zero impact practically if people picked up and left, because the only people that can do it are a few thousand people in his audience that have the capability to do it. It would be irrelevant in the overall scheme of things, period. But
Well, it's not irrelevant to those people, though. It's not irrelevant if it changes people's lives.
But they chose to stay, didn't they? They chose to stay. They heard his message. They chose to stay.
I don't know if they heard it. I mean,
I
you just said he's speaking to our people, so they clearly fucking heard it.
well, not everyone listens to every
Buck, go.
podcast. I'm just talking about who the type of people he's speaking to. Go ahead, Buck.
The pejoratives to say that if you disagree with Vin on his criticisms of Dave Smith, that's one area that we can discuss. But to say like, what a pussy, this guy ran off, which I've seen on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's like a pussy thing. I think this guy already had his I's dotted and his T's crossed. They should. Can you blame him for that? I mean,
he's celebrating his 100 from that.
To knock someone if you're a free market anarchist for basically having their shit together and foreseeing what was going to happen, and he's been fairly right along the way.
Actually, almost 100%. Right?
I'm going to take my
Very
family and put them in a situation that I think is more appropriate for them to be in, and not in this tyrannical insanity that we've all lived through. You guys, some of you guys more than myself in Texas, but still it was bad here for a little bit. So I can't knock the guy for leaving. I can't blame him.
And
if you've got your I's dotted and your T's crossed, or even if maybe just the I's dotted,
you don't even need all of it. Maybe
and
just cross half a T and you figure out the I and the other half when you get.
I don't like this. I'm out of here. And Mark even did it for briefly. He got to go to. I was a little jealous of this. Like Mark goes to Mexico. Man, it's pretty fucking nice. And to be able to just go, I'm out of here. And I'm going to live my own life off the grid. As an anarchist, why would you insult that? And this isn't against you, Brian. This is against.
Oh no, I'm not shitting on Vin for moving either. I agree with you. It's great that he did. So keep going.
It's the people I
think this Facebook user is kind of hit. I think that hits it on the head there, where people are feeling at least. Yeah.
Yeah, he says we don't know who this is because they didn't do the whole dumb StreamYard register thing. It's not cowardly to move. It's smarmy and condescending to yell at everyone who can't move. And like, I'm not here to defend Vin or not. I don't think Vin anyway. Other people might. I've never heard Vin be condescending to people who can't move myself.
Right. It's the opposite. I've heard the people that didn't move be condescending to him because he did.
Yes.
And that's kind of weak in my opinion.
I think that here's what I think. I think that people think he's being condescending. Look, I like Vin. I enjoy listening to him. I think he's a very smart guy, but he comes across as exceptionally condescending.
And that's a criticism of anyone who is extremely confident in what they're saying. I understand
he's very dismissive.
Brian, you come across as condescending too sometimes. And I'm not saying that
Mark, you'll understand what I'm saying in a minute.
Okay.
So,
right on brand, condescending.
In 1 minute, you fucking moron.
You'll be on my level.
No. But listening, I was listening to Clint's episode with Vin and Matt, and I literally whatever it was, signaled Mark and Odie, and I was like, man, fucking, I was like, dude, Vin's ego and the way he talks down, the way he talks.
For you to talk about someone's ego is just funny.
And I completely admit I have a fucking big ego.
Maybe
I think
that's a little projection thing.
Look, no, it's this is not projection. To be in the space, you have to have an ego. But the way he was talking, because mostly I'm talking just to the mic. If I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'm not talking the way that he was talking, which is very condescending, very dismissive, and that's what people are getting out of it. I'm telling you. What he's saying is not necessarily wrong insofar as moving, insofar as the tactics, insofar as readying your family. Not everybody can do that. But when people hear him coming across and like, hey, do this, you're an idiot for not thinking like I think, that's what turns people off. And I'm telling you, that's why a lot of people, after hearing that episode, he could have criticized Dave and done it in a little bit less condescending way, and the reaction would not have been so severe.
You are correct.
I 100% agree with you.
But would it have gotten as much
calling Dave a predator and those things should not. I mean, should not have done that. But if you listen to the rest of the podcast, which he never should have explained it that way in the first place, he kind of backpedaled off of it.
Well, look, if I was going to call Dave Smith a predator, I would have done it. Even if I really thought it, I would have done it in an offhanded joke manner, like, well, shit, man, he's kind of like a predator.
I don't think he means it like a joke.
But
if he meant it like a joke, that would make sense. But he doesn't mean it like a joke.
He doesn't. Seriously. But that's the point I'm making. Though, is I could have brought it up if I thought Dave was a predator. I would have brought it up as an offhand comment, a real thing I thought, and thrown it out there to make people kind of be like, oh, maybe shit, is he a predator or not? Instead, he's and this is the biggest complaints I had about it too, is calling him a predator. This is going to turn people off. People are going to immediately have a switch that goes in their head that says, I'm not listening to shit you're saying now. You just fucking attacked him, called him a predator. That's fucking idiotic. I'm not going to go for it anymore. So.
No, I get how it affects people, but I think that also speaks to a little bit of the cult mentality that exists everywhere. I'm not just outside libertarianism and not just in libertarianism. I've seen so much of, oh my God, I got to defend Dave because he's my guy. I fucking love Dave. Like I there are not many people in this movement that I love more than Dave. Personally, in terms of what he's, him.
He would easily sacrifice any of the Lions of Liberty in a heartbeat.
Hopefully. He should, that predator.
Sacrifice?
No, but
he'd put us on Mark.
Dave,
he'd put us
Dave
on
is, I mean, I'll say this. Dave is the greatest spokesman for, and Matt's not going to like this, but for the ideas, for spreading liberty, for the ideas of liberty right
after
now.
Brian McWilliams.
Yeah.
Close second.
Listen, Brian, I get why you don't like Vin. It's because he pulls off the ball.
I do like Vin.
I just wanted to bring that line out. Jeez.
All right, let's go. What are we doing with bonus show? We're at like an hour and a half of this fuck episode.
I forget where I was going with this, so let's just agree that we're going to wrap things up after Buck's last thoughts, and then we're going to move to a little bonus show. If you guys have
I want to keep talking about this shit.
No, we're going to keep talking
about
it.
bonus show. We got to. Our guest, come on. We got to shoot our guest well.
We're going to let Buck give his final thoughts on this subject, final thoughts that he will then expand upon in the bonus show.
And plug his show, of course.
And plug everything else. So
the
show's called Counterflow.
Buck.
I don't need to plug that. I mean, not that I don't need to, but I'm just here to have fun with you guys. I would not have chosen the language that Vin chose for Clint's podcast. However, there, to Mark's point, there is a bit of a little cliquish feel that I'm all in on the LPMC thing, or I'm all in for, I'm a Dave stan, as the kids say. And
did they say that? Is that
we all love, I think everyone here can agree that we love Dave Smith. I think he's amazing at what he does. He's been an influence on me, huge, more so than Vin, as far as what I do in podcasting. But they just disagree with each other. That's okay. I wouldn't have chosen Vin's language, but I also would not say, what a loser for moving away. And I saw that multiple times on Twitter, like, this guy's quitting. He left. And it's like, would you rather leave with your family if you've got the means to do that and put them in a position to succeed, or fight within the Libertarian Party and maybe go nowhere with,
or go argue with Nick Sarwark and Archie Flower?
Right. Correct.
And so, I mean, those not the binary.
Not that it's a binary choice, but I'm just saying, I saw people just standing up for Dave in kind of a flimsy way that seemed cheap, in my opinion, rather than say, I think Dave Smith is a family man and I think he's very good at what he does and I love what he does. I didn't appreciate Vin's wording. That's more appropriate than going, what a quitter, he fucking left the United States or whatever.
Yeah. And in fairness, Twitter brings out like the worst of everyone. So there's probably a lot of people that think what pretty much all of us think in some way, shape, or form. I wouldn't have used those words, yada, yada, but whatever, we could respectfully disagree. But Twitter brings out the fuck this guy, fuck that guy. And so maybe that doesn't represent.
And same with the Thaddeus stuff. That had a point that was far more nuanced than you can put into however many characters Twitter lets you do it. Yeah. But to call Thad a pedo or whatever the fuck they were saying, also stupid. Yep. So I think the bottom line is there's nuanced conversations to be had on a lot of these topics, and just to try to get it in a tweet often can leave you looking silly in the end.
All right. Well, that's a really long way to say to listen to Counterflow each and at least Monday. Sometimes
every Monday.
You do live streams, you do bonus stuff too. I will speak from the heart here. Genuinely speaking, when Buck first reached out to me, I didn't really know who you were. When you had Death of Tyrants, I went on your show. I was like, sure, why not? Really enjoyed the interview more than I expected to, from someone who just wanted to kill all the tyrants, which I want to do too. Maybe metaphorically, maybe not. But no, your interviewing style, the more I've listened to you almost every interview, I think, since you've changed the name. And I mean, I listened to you before that too, but maybe that had a psychological effect on me too, even though it's the same guy. Because since Counterflow has become Counterflow, I've listened to nearly every interview. I'm sure I've missed one or two. But I think you are truly one of the best interviewers in this business. And that comes from someone that I like to think other people say that about me as well. So I really got to recommend everyone to at least give Buck's show a try. Check out Counterflow. I think you're really going to enjoy Buck's style. It's different than mine. Mm-hmm. It's different than Odie's, different than John's. You're just extremely thoughtful, and you are not. You really. It's so obvious to me, especially when you interviewed me a couple months ago. You really put thought into your interviews far more than I do. Like truly, I mean that far more than I do. I kind of wing them. I'm not gonna lie. You have clearly like really put thought into everything you're gonna say, everything you're gonna ask, and it really comes across. So I really want to highly recommend checking out Counterflow, and I will take that payment in cryptocurrency.
And I want to say, Buck had so many interesting points tonight that nobody could hear because we were just speaking over him the entire time. So
all right, and Buck has not learned the style that you need to scream over all of us when you're on.
It's like
individually we seem like reasonable people, but when you get us together like a pack of goblins and feed us alcohol, we're unstoppable.
But the thing about being quiet like that, and not quiet, but being soft spoken, is that Buck, when you do talk, you can tell we're all pulling in and listening. So
he's saying things.
Exactly. It's and you have a great radio voice, so that helps.
Thank you guys.
And a good ASMR voice. I look forward to listening to you whispering me to sleep.
Brian.
All right. Well, Buck, I know you've dreamed of this day, this moment, basically your entire life. So I know that you're really looking forward to signing off with us. I know.
Yes.
You're ready.
We're going to the after party too, right?
We're going to go to the after party.
We're going to do the after party after.
But first, we're going to sign off for the normies.
Yes.
And then when they want to hear more, they're going to give us $5 or more, hopefully more, and then they're going to hear the rest. But until then, I have one thing to ask of you, Buck, Odie, McWilliams, everybody, and that is to live long
and live
how about
free.
I love it. Yes.
Live long and live free.